What's up? How we doing? It's good. It's good. I like that. Hey, when I was a high school student, every couple of months, I'd have my entire body flooded with stress. And it was just a certain week, every couple of months, where grades were about to drop. And I was constantly nervous about this because for me, I just wasn't good in the classroom. I didn't do well at school. And grades were just a problem for me. So I would remember that the week would come down. I'd know that grades are going to be coming in the mail, which for you is like, what? Yeah. There was a time prehistorically when your grades would come in the mail. And the way it worked is a mail person would show up at your house, and back in the day, they'd wear like a uniform, not their pajamas, and they'd drop, mail in your house. And so my objective was to get to my house as fast as I could after school, trying to get and intercept my grades before someone from my family did. And it actually never really worked out. Every time I got there, someone got to it first, or if I did get to it, someone asked where it was, and I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, they're going to look at it. And a couple weeks ago, I actually found a grade that I had, or some grades that I had for my senior year, second semester, and true to form, they were not good. They were not good at all. My first top of the class here, French. I took French, I think all 4 years, remember 0. Not sure why we even teach it in Arizona, but I took it anyways. And right here, D in French. Math, not bad right now, is C, which for me was actually great. Problem is it was like the basic elementary math my senior year because I struggle there. And the only good grade I had in all of my classes was PE. Yeah. Someone just said it. They're like, I get it. PE. You're with me on that one. I remember living in those days in tension. I just felt this tension in my body because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. Was I going to get in trouble? Was my dad going to kick me out? Of course not. But I felt that. And I know that for you, you have days or weeks or moments where you feel tension, you feel anxious. And we're going to talk about anxiety for the next couple of weeks. The way that I like to frame anxiety is it's this concern in the brain that we carry in the body. It's a concern in the brain, something that we're thinking about, kind of ruminating on, spinning our wheels about, that ultimately remains or impacts our body physically, neurologically, and there's sort of an indication that something's going on, that there might be a problem. And super normal. Part of being a human being is you face and deal with anxiety. So much so that if you were to go through the Bible and start reading some of these really significant characters in the Bible, you'd see that they deal with it too. Old Testament, you got King David that dealt with it. New Testament, you've got Martha. And the reason why I think Martha is kind of noteworthy is because she spent a lot of time with Jesus. She was really close to Jesus, to which you'd say, well, why would she deal with anxiety if she was around Jesus? Because it's human. It's a human thing. The Apostle Paul dealt with it. Even Jesus had his interaction with a form of anxiety. So I think it's entirely human. I think it's entirely normal. And it's such a thing that I have in my, 20, 30 years really kind of dealt with. It's a wrestling match between me and this concept of anxiety. In fact, before I walked out here, I can feel my blood pressure rising. I'm getting nervous. I don't know if you know this or not, but high school students sometimes can be a tough crowd to communicate to. And I come out here, and this is what I do for a living. I mean, I work at a church, but I still feel that. If I'm not prepared in life, I can sense and really deal with anxiety. If I feel like I'm stuck, in my career or in any way financially, same thing takes place. if I feel unprepared or unproductive, I can really start to sense anxiety is battling with me. I don't know about you. I'm assuming that in some way or another, regularly, you're facing it. I want you to talk to the people like around you for a quick moment, and I want you to ask this question and just spend a minute like theorizing. Hey, why do you think anxiety is so common today? And I'm not even going to get into like all the data because you know that it is. Why do you think anxiety is so common with this time in history? Go ahead and take a minute and pontificate. All right. Hey, you know this. Isolation is on the rise. Isolation is up. Comparison is up. Expectations that we put on ourselves and that others put on us is up. And so that's a pretty nasty trifecta. You wonder why we are as anxious as we are. Well, there's a bunch of reasons that are obvious. I'm sure you had some good thoughts as to why you think that it is. But what I want to really jump into is there's this idea, and I think at times I can believe in it, maybe you believe in it too, that sometimes we believe we are anxious versus experiencing anxiety. Almost like it's a trait that we have, like blue eyes, blonde hair, anxious. Like it's on your driver's license. It's what you were born with. And that's not the case. That's not true. It's something that you experience in life. It can feel often like, man, it seems like it's a part of your life, but it's not who you are. It's a thing that we experience, and it's a part of the human experience. What I want to do for a few minutes is I want to unpack what I think we do oftentimes with anxiety. I got my guy coming out here to help me. Student, Gavin, roll out. Make a little noise for Gavin. Gavin's gonna help me with this. He did not want to do this at all, but I'm grateful that you're here. This is my guy. Gavin is a senior at Liberty High School, plays sports, athlete, good dude. All right. I've got a bunch of things here, and these are objects that represent for many of us like ways that anxiety kind of gets smuggled into our lives. Okay, these are objects and ways. I think you'll identify with some of these. Maybe you'll have your own list of things that you say smuggles in anxiety into your life. But and some of these are really dumb. He already said that it was the case. This is a hammer. This is representing work. And I know hardly any of you work with like a hammer, but you get it, okay? Work for some of you is a stressor because it's all the things. You already have school. You already have sports. Some of you have school and sports, and you're in Stuco and other activities. And then on top of that, you're working and you're trying to make money and you're trying to get your coworkers to get along and like you, and you're trying to please your boss. And you're trying to make enough money, and then some of you carry a lot of the responsibility in your life when it comes to paying the bills. Maybe you have to pay for insurance. You have to pay for your phone. Not everybody has to do that, but you do, and you feel the weight of that. That's in your life. This is just going to represent school. It's a calculator that nobody uses anymore at all. It's like a Casio. Maybe some do. You use a calculator in math? Like one like this?
Kind of.
Okay, sweet. I didn't know. For some of you, school, like me, is a gigantic source of stress for you. It's grades. Man, it's all the politics going on at school. It's the things that are happening there. Some of you on Sunday afternoons, you know that school is about to start tomorrow, and you can already feel like the pressure of tomorrow, and you feel the weight of that. This is a random on-cloud shoe. I don't see any teenagers wearing these, but maybe some do. For you, one of the inducers of anxiety is just the way that you dress and making sure that you're kind of keeping up, that you've got the latest whatever. And sometimes that's expensive. Sometimes it's kind of a lot to keep up. But if you don't, and if you don't pay attention to what you're wearing, and if you don't pay attention to what you're looking like in that you might maybe be forgotten or left out or made fun of, and you feel the weight of kind of having the right curated outfit with that. For a lot of you, it's sports. And your sport may not be volleyball. It could be soccer or basketball or golf or tennis or whatever it is that you're into. And for you, the anxiety that comes along with that is, well, it's your coach, it's playtime, it's performance, it's the other players and the things that they say, and you feel the weight of that. For a lot of us, you like exercise, and you're like constantly trying to get your exercise right and your diet right. This is a weighted vest, and you're gonna feel this one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're trying so hard to get everything right. You're counting your macros and you're paying attention to what you eat and drink and all of those things, and you feel the pressure of that, feel the stress of that. I put a flashlight here, and it broke. Yeah. So imagine this is a flashlight that works. And the reason why I chose a flashlight for this concept is because so many of us are thinking about the future, and this would shine off in the distance. Okay. And the future, for some of you, is scary. You're graduating, he's a senior, he's graduating soon. Where are you going to go to college? What degree are you going to have? Are you going to choose the right degree to follow the right job? Will you like the job? Will the job pay enough? Will it be the job that you want to keep? I mean, the future sometimes can be really scary, and you can feel that. Man, I could probably spend hours just unpacking the weight, even though it doesn't weigh a lot. But the weight that the phone places on our lives, the anxiety that gets induced by our phones is crazy. Comparison, FOMO, not to mention just raw sin. Like the volume of sin that comes through our phone, and why there's a correlation with sin and anxiety is because oftentimes, like the things that we feel, the anxiousness that we feel can be due to the things that we're experiencing. The sin that we somehow continue to circle back to. And you know this might have even been one that you mentioned when we were talking about why is this generation so anxious. You might have mentioned a phone and the weight that it carries with that. And then I know nobody ever builds scrapbooks. I didn't build a scrapbook. This is my wife's scrapbook, just for the record. Okay? Okay. This is a scrapbook of like all my family and our history and things like that. My wonderful wife, and for you, family might not feel great. In fact, it might be the most stressful place that you go in your day is home. You got family issues. You've got divorce, or maybe it's money problems. And there's just tension in the home. Maybe you've got family members that don't believe. And when you go home, man, it just feels heavy. And it may not be all of these things. It may not be all of these all the time, but hey, you can relate to feeling the weight, right? Like you know what this is like. Some of you would say, yeah, I got that and then some. I feel like I'm walking around and I'm carrying all this weight. And what I want to talk to you for a few minutes is, what do we do with this? What do we do with this weight that we're carrying around, this anxious weight that we're experiencing? Thank Gavin for being my guy here. Thank you. That's heavy. Yeah, that's heavy. Yeah, that's a lot. I think I'm going to take the weight vest out though, because that's actually too much. There we go. Easier. All right. I want to talk with you for a few minutes about what do we do with the weight that we are dealing with these anxious thoughts. What do we do with our anxious thoughts? And in some cases, someone might think, well, I think what we do with it is we just like stop it, like cut it out. And that's not an answer to the problem, because that doesn't work. I've tried it. You've tried it. Just stop it. Stop thinking about something. That doesn't work. Stop acting like that, and that doesn't work. But what we do is maybe something a little bit deeper than that. I want to talk about relocating, not necessarily just stopping. We're talking about relocating our anxiousness. And so I'm going to give you two practices. We're going to go through this really fast. I'm going to get you out to groups. But I want to give you two practices that I think can help as you live this life where anxiety will just be a part of it. It's going to be part of it, but you can kind of decide how long it resides with you, how long you carry that weight with you. You can choose a lot of that. The first practice is this. We just name it. We start naming what is in the bag, what's going on inside of our life. We name it. This is a passage out of Psalm 139, verse 23. It says, search me, God, and know my heart. I'm going to stand in the way. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. God, what is going on inside of me? Why do I feel this way? Why am I acting this way? What is happening? And we start by just naming it, saying, God, could you bring something to the surface to help me know what's happening? Because it's not as easy as, I don't know. Because what I do, and maybe what some of you do, is I just mask it. I ignore it. I medicate it. I act like it's no big deal, but something is bothering me. Something is going on inside of me. God, could you just help me name it? Could you help me identify what it is? Because more than likely, what you've done and what I've done is something has gotten into your bag. Something is in your life. It's weighing down. It could have been there for a long time, but you don't know. You picked it up. You thought about it. It just become a kind of a habit for you to continue to do that. Maybe it's just something you do every day. As you dwell on something that's negative or something that's not true, or just this fearful belief you have, and it lives in here, and over time starts to weigh you down. Actually starts to impact the way that you live your life. Here's some cool things I think God has given us to help us know that there's something wrong. Number one, like your body will tell you. Your body will tell you there's something wrong. It's kind of a restlessness. It's a sleeplessness. Perhaps you've got some blood pressure things. These are all indications, because that's what anxiety is. It's an indication. Something's going on. Deal with it. Something's going on in there. You need to face it. The other thing it does, in addition to the body, is there's people around you that are really good indicators. You've got friends or people that are close to you that know, something's off. Listen to them. If you find yourself always being kind of a jerk, you're always angry, you're always cynical, you're always a skeptic. Listen, I speak sarcasm, I'm fluent in it, but there's a point when you can be too much, where everything you say is a sarcastic comment. Those are all indications, y'all. Something's going on. So we ask God, could you help me name it? Search me and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. We name it. Number two, this comes from 1 Peter, and I just think it's the reason I'm calling this a practice. So the second practice is to give it to God. The reason why I'm calling it a practice is because it's something you do regularly. It's not a one time. It's not, I thought I got rid of that and it came back. Life, man. It's just life. It will come back. These things will come back. But what we're learning to do is get them out of the bag quicker. We're learning to move them out. And what are we doing with the things that are in the bag? We're giving them to God. We're learning to name them, and then we give them to God. And this is the one that I can tell, in my own spirit, and maybe you can feel the same way. You're sort of I don't know if I know how to do that. Sure, but how do I do that? How do I give that to God? How do I give my anxious thoughts to God? Because that's an intangible thing I'm giving to an intangible being. How do I do that? And that's a little tricky. I'm only going off of what the Bible tells us with this, that we cast all of our anxieties because he cares for us. So one of the things we've got to get locked into our mind is the little things that we might think are inconsequential and trivial in life that may be bothering you, that aren't that big of a deal, you think. will you bring those to God? Man, he probably didn't care about the little stuff. Of course he does. He cares about you. And if it's getting you hung up, and if it's in the way of you living your life and your best life, well, then he cares about that, and he wants that to change. So we cast all of our cares on him because he cares for us. I'm going to give you a practice that I do this all the time. I do this all the time because I need to do this all the time. And I'm going to have you just do this with me. Wherever you're at, I'm going to have you put your hands in front of you. What I'm going to have you do for a moment is I'm going to have you ask God first. And you may not have anything that you're anxious about right now. This might be a message that you're thinking, I don't know what I have. With your palms open, I want you to just take a minute. I want you to ask God, is there anything going on inside of me? Is there something that's kind of rooted in a problem? Because it's usually not the sport. It's usually not directly work. It's usually not like what you're wearing. It's something beyond that. It's deeper than that. God, can you help me identify what it is so I can name it? I'm going to give you a minute and just ask God to help you name what it might be that could be causing an anxious thought inside of you. With your palms still up, and you might not have had enough time to actually draw that out and kind of still yourself enough to be patient, to hear that. Maybe something was instantly on your mind. I want you to visualize what that thing is, what that concept is. I want you to visualize that in your hand. That's in your hand, and I want you to physically let God have that. I want God to take that out of your hands. I know you're like, this is weird. I just think it's helpful. But you're letting God know what it is. You're asking God to help you identify what it is that's causing anxiety inside of us. And we're saying, God, you could take it. I'm going to give this to you. And what I'd encourage you to do as you maybe practice this and you incorporate this into the way that you live your life. There's all kinds of practices. There's breathing, and there's exercise, and there's prayer, and there's sleep, and he's given us all kinds of tools. This is another tool to begin using as you deal with anxiety. You get, God, help me to name it, and I want to give it to you. Name it and give it to God and see what he does with your oftentimes anxious thoughts. Let me pray for you. Father, thanks for our students, praying for them as they get into conversations about this tricky concept, asking for you to help us to grow and learn and draw closer to the person you called us to be. It's in your name we pray. Amen.